think I'm live. Hi everybody, happy full moon. Give it a second for people to hop in, make sure the sound comes through. Okay, cool. I was having, of course, some problems with this stream key or whatever, I'm not sure, but it looks like it's good now. Alright, well, happy full moon. Hopefully it's not too loud. I have a fan like right in front of my face and my hair is all wet. I just got out of the shower. It's so hot here. I feel like I'm melting. We have a couple of new members, so really quick, I do want just to remind everybody to grab a couple of things. So you're going to want to have your natal chart. If you look on the post on Patreon, I don't know exactly what gets emailed to you guys, but I know you guys get something via email. And then there's the list on Patreon. I think you maybe need to go over there where you can like see the whole post. And in the post, I post several different resources. Some are free, some are not, where you can get your natal chart. If you need help and you have already made it over to Discord, you can post a screenshot of your chart over in the astrology section or like the moon magic section or something and just ask for help. But you're definitely going to want to have your chart ran by a program that has the numbers for the houses. And what I have noticed is that a lot of the mainstream astrological apps do not. So all of the ones that I have listed on there do, and the charts are going to look a lot like the charts that I read here, and you'll be able to find the degrees of your planets, because some will just show the symbol. It won't tell you like what degree and the sign it is, right? And you'll be able to pinpoint the house, which is really what we're going to want to be looking at here tonight or whenever we work with any moon, because that is how we figure out what area is being highlighted by this lunation. So you're going to want to have your natal chart, you're going to want to have something to write with, and the apprentice cheat sheet, which is linked below, and you should totally print it out. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we are just going to dive right in. We're going to dive into some books tonight. Oh, that's something else. Okay, we're going to dive into a whole bunch of places tonight, and we're going to look at the archetype of Pisces as the dolphin and all of these other archetypal expressions that, you know, maybe we don't normally attribute to Pisces. We're going to kind of try to expand our lens on and how we view this sign. Now, I have done previous videos on Pisces, obviously. This is one of the full moon videos. I recommend going back and watching this one. This was actually a really good video where I dove really deep into the concept of the primordial mother, the kind of like Sophia archetype, the cosmic womb, that which like birthed all of creation. It was a really great video, so I recommend going back there because we're going to kind of go in a different direction here tonight. And this video was really good too. We dove deep into like the energy of Pisces, because this was around the time of the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, both of the rulers of Pisces in Pisces. And so we really dove into like what is Pisces energy, and like how are we having this huge influx of it right now, like stuff that we haven't felt since the 1800s when we had that really big Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. So we're going to go some different places tonight, but those videos are great to check out. Obviously these are dolphins. We're going to dive into that same Jungian analytical astrological book that we read for the Virgo moon. I figured Virgo and Pisces are in opposition to each other. They are one of these axis of polarities, and we may as well continue on. So we're going to look and see what her name is, Kathleen Burt. what she has to say about Pisces, and she really attributes it to the dolphin, and apparently so do the ancients. Pisces used to be depicted as just one fish, and apparently it was a dolphin. And so she goes all into this, and we're going to go all into this, and it's really awesome. This is a picture of dark matter. I mean, as best as we can depict it. I'm also going to be tying Pisces to this concept, or this like rulership, this like expanded rulership throughout the video. We'll get there later. It's one of my latest theories. Okay, so just some stuff we're going to be getting into. Mercury retrograde. I recommend going and watching the live that I did last night over on YouTube. It's here too, you know. Oh, hi Daisy. It sounds good. Okay, cool. The video I did last night for the September astrology, because I dove deep into like all of the technicalities of Mercury retrograde, all the aspects it's making while stationing and retrograde and direct, all of the dates, all of the degrees that it'll be transiting. We're not going to cover too much of it tonight, but we obviously are going to touch on the fact that Mercury stations retrograde tomorrow, and you know, it's a key player in the energy of this moon. We're going to dive into the archetype of Pisces, the concept of the illusionary patriarchal archons. So maybe I'll just touch on this now because we have the dark matter thing here in this. Okay, so I was thinking, I don't know what started this, but I have notes in my notes section. It was just the other night when I was writing this down. Oh, I remember what it was. Okay, so you guys know how in my last video, the September video, I said I like this new YouTube channel. He's like an Indo-European mythologist. Well, I was watching another one of his videos. I mentioned his video on like the oldest creation myth last night. Well, I was watching another one of his videos, and it was on storm gods. And it was on storm, like this constant archetypal mythological motif that we see repeated all throughout all of the different Indo-European cultures, of this like storm god versus a serpent that we see repeated over and over again. And I was thinking, I was like, oh, that's interesting, considering we are in the season of the storm god and the serpent. We're in the opposition of Pisces and Virgo, right? So Virgo houses the main star of the dragon, the serpent, and Pisces is ruled by the storm gods. It's ruled by Jupiter and Neptune, which are Zeus and Poseidon, and they are the storm gods. And so when we have this sort of final opposition, right? Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So this is the last full moon of the zodiac. It is the final illumination in the moon's trek through the zodiac. It's the illumination of the akasha, of the whole. And so I was thinking, I was like, wait a second. It's kind of laughable to think that Zeus and Poseidon, right? So Jupiter and Neptune govern or rule Pisces. Pisces is the cosmic womb. It's the Akash. It's the whole. Zeus barely can govern the sky, and Poseidon can barely govern the sea. He didn't create it. He can barely wield it. And the same with Zeus, right? They are these illusionary patriarchal archons. They are maybe helping to channel the Piscean energy to us. And, you know, they're the best archetypal expressions we have to date. You know, Jupiter used to be the only ruler of Pisces. Jupiter governs religion. It governs dogma. It governs philosophy, higher education. It governs our first kind of taste into the mystical, magical, unseen realm that's Pisces. Later, in the 1800s, Neptune was discovered, and then Neptune became the co-ruler of Pisces. Neptune is more rooted in that like watery energy that is Pisces, and the mystical, magical, etheric, dreamy, archetypal expressions that is Pisces, the more undefinable aspects of Pisces. And so we started to merge with that. But with it comes a lot of illusion and delusion and fantasy and confusion, right? And so I was thinking, like, it's actually kind of laughable to think that these guys govern Pisces. They govern the whole. They don't even govern the whole in the Greek pantheon. Like, they are Olympians. They came way later. We had Titans, we had primordial deities that came before that. And if anything, Pisces is rooted in the primordial. So then I started thinking, like, okay, well, then what would rule Pisces? What would govern Pisces? If it's not Jupiter and it's not Neptune and they're just like channels for that energy, what would it be? And I started to think, well, maybe it was a black hole. And then I was like, no, because it's more like the pre-consciousness, and a black hole is like super consciousness. It's an advanced sun. And so then I started thinking, oh, well, it must be dark matter. It's dark matter or dark energy, which is the material that is responsible for both the creation, the expansion, and the contraction and the destruction of our universe, which is literally like Pisces' whole jam. It ends the zodiac, but then it also births the zodiac. So my theory is that Pisces is temporarily governed by these illusionary patriarchal archons, but really it's ruled by dark matter, the void, the primordial. We've touched on this before in like the other videos, but I developed a little bit more of that theory. I was going to read what I wrote here, but I think I'm going to make it into a post, so it's fine. I pretty much explained my point here. So we're also going to touch on the concept of Pisces as this Akashic field, this like whole where everything merges as one. And other archetypal rulers. This book we're going to read floats a couple, and then I float some more, like that of the witch or even Hecate as being a deity that I would think would better suit this sign than the ones currently connected to it. Like I said before, dolphins, dark matter. We'll get into this when we get into the cards. The storm, crossroads, the shadow dimension, celestial waters, which Pisces is, and these layers of the dream, which right now another layer is shattering, and I dove into that in the video I did last night and the astrology behind that, and how this month is going to be like navigating a fantasy, illusionary spell dreamland. And now we're literally going to be in the midst of some sort of like British ritual, power changeover ritual as well. That should be fun. I lost the video, so I'm coming back to you guys. Sorry. Okay. These are just lyrics from Van Morrison. I talked about him a little bit in the last video. This is a song that I think if you guys are into music like me, I have Neptune square my sun, so a lot of my like little triggers come in through music and art and things like that. I just put that there to remind myself to tell you that Into the Mystic would be a really great song to listen to around this moon. It really has this sort of like Piscean vibes to it. Bob Dylan's new album that he released last year in 2020 has a song on there that I've been kind of listening to on repeat too that I think really speaks heavily to the Piscean energy, and it's called Mother of Muses. I would maybe listen to that too if you're interested. And this is just some of the astrology we're going to get into. All right. So now is when you take a look at your natal chart and you find these two signs. So, at a new moon, the sun and the moon are in the same sign. They're starting a new story in a sign that culminates 6 months later. But at a full moon, the sun and moon are sitting in opposite signs, and they're activating one of our 6 axis of polarities. And this is when we have an illumination in the sign that the moon falls in, and a new beginning in the sign that the sun falls in. This story was seeded 6 months ago. So first of all, you're going to want to look and see where Pisces falls in your chart, and you're going to want to figure out what house that is. 6 months ago, a new story started there that is coming kind of like to a culmination point right now, an illumination point. You're able to see, you're able to grasp, you're able to harvest. Pisces very much governs the realm of spirituality. So we're all going to be having this in a certain area of our life. For me, it's my 7th house of relationships. But Pisces governs spirituality and the realm of spirituality. So we're all having these sort of like mystical, intuitive senses illuminated for us. The illusionary dream archetypal realm illuminated for us, so we can see a little bit more clearly our own unconscious, the collective unconscious, right? And then we're also feeling this sort of like Piscean energy really illuminate the area of our life that it falls in. So Pisces energy is very compassionate, it's very intuitive, it's very empathic, it's very emotional, it's very artistic, it's sensitive, and it's connecting on a level beyond that of the head that Virgo governs, and more so into like the heart, into the soul, into our feelings. We're connecting on a deeper level that like is beyond this time-space continuum. It's so deep, it's plugging us into source itself, right? That those patriarchal archons are trying to wield and govern and claim as their own, but is so much more vast than they can even pretend to be, right? Okay, so you want to find and see what axis of polarity is highlighted. So you're going to have you're going to have the moon falling on one side and the sun falling on the other side. And it's a certain axis, right? So like the 6th house and the 12th house, which are the houses actually ruled by Virgo and Pisces, these are kind of like the axis of service, right? Both of these signs are in service to something. Virgo is very practical, in service in the like tangible physical world, while Pisces is more spiritual and emotional, and in service on more of the unseen world, being able to like connect empathically or intuitively to that which is beyond, right? And so we all are having a sort of one of these axes highlighted in our chart, and it's seeking balance and integration. That's what happens at a full moon, is you guys hear me say this all the time. We have these 6 axes, right? And they're all seeking balance and harmony with each other. And they're all kind of being pulled in 2 different directions at all times. And we're always trying to find a sort of middle ground between, right, our home life and our career, our self and our relationships, holding on to things or letting them go, our conscious, analytical, logical mind, our more expansive, higher philosophical mind. These 2 sides of the same coin are always kind of being highlighted and pulled. And when we have a full moon, it's really being shown to us, and we're able to see, and we're able to see very strongly, very clearly into the area that's illuminated. So in this case, it's Pisces. Really harvest a lot of what we have built over the last 6 months. Have a sort of like, okay, I've gotten somewhere moment. And then also prepare to let go of what's no longer serving you in that same area, while simultaneously starting a brand new story that will culminate 6 months later in the opposite sign, which in this case is Virgo, right? Okay, hopefully that makes sense. We're going to look at the next slide a little bit deeper into these polarities, but I can't hone in enough how important it really is to look at the sky like this. This is one of, I think, the most important things I say to the internet about astrology, all my psyops aside or whatever. The fact that astrology is not 12 different signs, the fact that it's always two. And I went into this in last night's video, the September video, and how we always are having this polarity activated. Like right now, we have the sun opposite the moon, and so we have it activated just naturally, but the sun is always opposite the earth. I went into this in the video I did last night, so make sure you go watch that out for context. Watch that for context. But the moon is always sitting, the earth is always sitting in the opposite sign from the sun, making a sort of polarity. And astrologers used to take this into account. The earth used to be in astrology charts. Astrologers used to use it, and then it was just completely removed. And when they removed the earth, it was like they literally severed the earth goddess and our connection to the other half, and our connection to the story that is the polarity that astrology always is. When the sun is transiting through a sign in the season, the earth is in the opposite sign. And they're always highlighted, always. So we really can feel this highlight strongly at full moons, and we're able to do something with it. Okay, so hopefully by now you should know what this axis kind of is. You want to then, if you want to go a little bit deeper, if you're new and you're already overwhelmed, like don't worry about this part. Very minimal, look and see where Pisces is, what number that house is, that area of your life. Honestly, pro tip, this is a full moon. You don't really have to do anything at all. Full moons are illumination points. When that area is illuminated, all you really have to do is open your eyes and pay attention to what is being shown to you. New moons are the only time when we really need to do anything. You'll be shown some stuff, and then after the moon is full and it starts to wane, you'll then have to do the work of like letting things go and transmutation and integration and all of these things. But right now you're just supposed to be paying attention, right, and seeing what's shown to you. But to get an insight into where that might be being shown and where you can really zero in and harness this illumination, it helps to know what area. Okay. So then you want to look and see if you have any planets near 17 degrees, particularly of Pisces. If you have a planet near 17 degrees of Pisces, that planet is conjunct this moon. If you have a planet near 17 degrees of a Virgo, it's in opposition to this moon, and it is very strongly aspected, and therefore those areas of your life are being very strongly affected. You then want to look and see if you want to go a little bit farther. You want to look and see if you have any planets in any of the other mutable signs near 17 degrees. So that's Gemini or Sagittarius. And those would be sitting in a square. My Saturn is there. My chart is just, I can't even express how much is going on in my chart right now. It's something else entirely. Okay. So we're going to just kind of briefly cover these little infographics here. This is from that book we're going to read a little bit later, that analytical Jungian astrologer, Kathleen Burt. And I took a screenshot of this. Somebody else highlighted that one sign. It's nothing special. It summarizes the polarities and the houses into just like one word. It really sums it up very short, But I just wanted to kind of show you, the Aries Libra axis, it's the self and others. The Pisces Virgo axis, yes, it's the house of service, but Pisces does that service more in solitude, because the service is to the other world, to the spiritual world. It can then come back to this world and use its wisdom and its compassion to be of service here, but it requires a lot of solitude, right? The Cancer Capricorn axis is the axis of the mother and the father, but it's also the home and the career. These are good descriptions here. Leo does very much govern the individual, and Aquarius the group, right? But Leo also governs like children and things like that as well. So If you guys want to take a screenshot of these to kind of reference when you're looking at your chart, it might help. They did a pretty good job of summarizing them up. You know, this goes in a little bit deeper to some of the things that the houses govern. And then this does a really good job of like kind of summarizing the goal, the quest of that sign, right? Aries is to obtain self-awareness. Taurus, the second house, is revolves around personal resources. The third house, which is the house that governs like learning and information, its goal is thinking. I think in my immediate environment. The fourth house, I nurture. The fifth house, I serve. This is serving children and our personal creativity. Virgo is also about service, but it's service in our daily life, like practical, tangible things. This is our house of partnerships. So yeah, I'm not going to go all the way around, but you guys kind of get the gist. And I thought maybe this would help give a little bit of a visual of these polarities that I talk about, and maybe help you to understand the houses a little bit more. I might keep putting this slide in the videos, just so you guys can reference. Daisy says, my Venus in Sagittarius is at 17 degrees. Yeah, my Saturn is at 15 degrees. So that's fun. Okay. All right, so let's cover some of the basic energy of Pisces, and we're just gonna expand out. I didn't make a PDF. I have a stack of books. We're just gonna read some stuff out of there. I picked some really great passages. It is so hot. I feel like I'm dying. Okay. So Pisces is one of the 4 mutable signs, and it is the one that governs water. So the mutable signs are the signs that end a season and prepare for the new one to be birthed. They are the ones that end. And then we have our solstice and our equinox points after that, and new seasons being born. They are responsible for shifting. They are these shape-shifting energies that help us transform into what's next. They're very alchemical. They're very mobile. They're very shifting. And being as though Pisces is a water sign, it's very rooted in that sort of mystical, unseen, intuitive, emotional, and imaginative dream world, right? The archetype of Pisces is the dual fish, which is something I've covered extensively in other videos. Jeb says, I have Saturn at 15 degrees too. Conjunct the sun in Pisces. Oh, you have a Pisces Saturn. Fun. That's fun. Okay, so we all have a lot of Saturn energy with this moon. Saturn really has a lot to do with our personal authority, our personal responsibility, hard work, hard soul work, hard karmic work. For many of us, that hard karmic work is done in this spiritual unseen realm. So we really should be having our eyes wide open and being receptive to what is being shown to us right now, because it's a harsh lesson for all of us. Saturn teaches profound initiatory wisdom, but he teaches it through harsh confrontations with reality, like harsh reality checks and like hard lessons and hard work. So we all need to we need to make sure we're paying attention. All right, so I've dove into the dual fish before, right? We have the polarity of Pisces. I talked extensively about the golden thread that connects the two fish. I have like one of my hairs tickling me. Okay. The golden thread connecting the two fish, and how the one fish is yin and the other fish is yang, light, dark, feminine, masculine, and how the goal is to activate the golden thread within that middle path, right? We're going to talk in a little while about how it's also connected to the dolphin. It is the final sign of the zodiac, which births the start of the zodiac. So this is our final full moon. This is like every full moon is a culmination point, but this full moon is the culmination point. It's the culmination of the entire zodiac. It's the final illumination of the moon's entire trek through the zodiacal cycle. It is the end, but it is also the beginning. Millie says her sun strong conjunct within 2.3 degrees of Saturn. Nice. Daisy says her Saturn is also at 15 degrees, but in Libra. Very nice. Okay. So like I said earlier, Jupiter and Neptune are the rulers of Pisces. I touched on that a little bit already, so we are going to kind of move on. Pisces governs the 12th house. If you are an Aries rising, then Pisces will fall in your 12th house. If you are not an Aries rising, it won't. We all are feeling this 12th house energy because we're having a Pisces full moon. But those of us who do not happen to have a perfect chart, a natural chart, and our 12th house is, or for us, Pisces falls in another house, we're kind of mixing this 12th house energy and that other house energy together, and that's how it's going to be kind of manifesting for us. So we're having this sort of like unconscious, dreamy, spiritual energy manifesting through another area. For me, it'd be my 7th house of relationships, partnerships, contracts, things like that. For you, it's going to be something else. Unless you happen to be a Virgo rising, then it will be the same as mine. Okay, so the 12th house, Pisces governs the 12th house, the last house, the end of the zodiac, which represents the unintegrated self, the unconscious self, but it's also like the unintegrated, the unconscious, the collective unconscious, the vastness of the pre-conscious. What one projects onto intimate relationships, our dreams, our hidden fears, our enemies, breakdowns, sacrifice, and service. Service to a greater cause. It's the house of magic, of spirituality, of the unseen, of secrets, totally spelled wrong. Our need for withdrawal or privacy. This is the house of integration and transcendence of one. It's the house of one's own self-undoing. So kind of take your pick. It can either be the house of integration, transcendence, and connection to source, or the house that is our own undoing that brings us back down to a rock bottom in the hopes that we kind of find source. And neither is wrong, and throughout our lives we often experience both because we are dualistic people. But at this moon is actually a really nicely aspected. It's a really great moon. While yes, a lot of like hidden fears can be illuminated, a lot of like emotional breakdowns, because Pisces, this full moon is just so emotionally heightened, it can manifest. It's actually a beautifully harmonious moon, and we'll get into that in a little bit. It has a Mars square, but you guys know me. I'm gonna show you why. That's a good thing. Okay, so it's a good thing, but you also probably don't want to have emotionally heated conversations with people around this time. But, you know, Mercury stations retrograde tomorrow, and we talked about that in last night's video, that you don't really want to be having emotionally heated conversations with people right now because it's not going to end well. So don't do that, and then everything should be good. Okay, so in the world, Pisces is said to represent all that is spiritual in the world. So all of the good, all of the bad, right? All of the left-hand path, all of the right-hand path, anything that would be considered the middle path, anything of the dark, anything of the light, and anything of the in-between. It governs everything. It's the end. So everything, it governs everything that is universal and intangible, unexplainable. It also has connections to places of seclusion and confinement, like hospitals or institutions. It also governs like illness as well. especially mental illness, but also like actual illness. It's the opposite of Virgo. Virgo governs health. Pisces governs illness. It governs secret societies, all that is hidden, all that is happening behind the scenes, and it also governs the oil industry. Some herbs that are associated with Pisces that maybe you can incorporate into any sort of ritual that you may or may not do are nutmeg, sage, oak, and dandelion. The evolved traits of Pisces that are being illuminated and culminated right now that we can really work to like integrate into our essence and embody within ourselves are the Pisces is very artistic. So I said earlier, there's not really anything you need to do during this moon. And I meant like, don't get in your head about it. You don't need to be like setting intentions or doing any sort of like fancy ritual work, although you can. I'm not saying not to. But what would be ideal would be some sort of artistic, creative venture. Whether it's painting or some sort of craft, writing music, anything artistic or creative, even doing some sort of like meditation, unconscious, like traveling the unconscious type meditation, or personal regression type of a thing, or even if you experiment with mind-altering substances for spiritual purposes and not escapism, which Pisces likes to use them for both, depending on whether they are embodying the evolved archetype or the lower octave. But let's say you are embodying the evolved archetype, and you like to maybe partake in, let's say, some of the mushroom variety or something like that. This would be an ideal time to work with that sort of avenue of exploring the mind, but finding ways to express yourself creatively, whether it's writing poetry, making music, playing music, listening to music, making art. That is the best way to channel this energy into something. Remember, we're in Virgo season. Virgo wants to make things practical and tangible. But Pisces, we're having this Pisces culmination in the mystical realm where we can obtain a lot, but it's often worthless to us unless we can bring it into this realm and make it physical. So finding ways to make it physical will appease both sides of this polarity, our Pisces moon and our Virgo sun. And art and music is the best way to do it. Okay, so Pisces are artistic, kind, sympathetic, compassionate, creative. They embody very high levels of spiritual love, right? So we have like different forms of love. Libra governs love. Oh, well, okay. Leo governs love, and it governs like romance and children and like love on that level, that like fiery, passionate love. Aries has a little bit of the passion in there too, but it's more lust. Libra governs love and partnership, but it's more of like a mental compatibility, and these sort of intellectual partnerships, right? Scorpio governs intense romantic connection, like soul love, like deep intimacy, right? And then Pisces governs this like a higher level of spiritual, of like love itself, love of all, not so much romantic love, but we're really feeling this sort of like love of everything around this time. This energy is very intuitive. It's the visionary. They're sensitive, adaptable, receptive, magical, mystical. They sit beyond the time-space continuum and are extremely psychic. And this moon is actually going to be conjunct Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, and Neptune is retrograde. So Neptune governs illusions, delusions, and the fog that prevents us from seeing. It also governs the mystic truths. But we have to get through like all of the bullshit fantasy in order to get to that. But when Neptune is retrograde, a lot of that bullshit is shattering away in order for us to see. But with retrogrades, which is something I've been going into in the last couple of videos, in order to see and not just get caught up in all of the chaos, it requires us to go inward. Pisces is the sign of solitude. It's the sign of going inward to find that connection within. And so in order to actually connect to like true psychic and intuitive hits, it will require you to go inward. We can very much get lost in the chaos of the outer world right now, so just keep that in mind. Lower octave energy of Pisces is escapism. Denial, addiction, rose-colored glasses, sticking your head in the sand, fantasy mindsets that prevent you from actually accessing the mystic truths that the sign governs, and instead keep you in a comfortable or not so comfortable delusion. The energy, because they are so plugged in to the vastness of it all, they can be extremely ungrounded. And so that's when that other polarity, every sign needs its opposite, right? Like whatever your sun sign is, if you look to its opposite and you try to embody what that sign does very well, that's what you're missing. That's the point of like all these polarities that I'm talking about here. So Pisces, because they're so plugged in over here, they're missing Virgo's grounded logic. And if they can come just a little bit back into the middle, they can use what they found out there in a grounded, logical way and actually be successful, right? And so staying grounded around this time is instrumental to being able to actually harness this Piscean illumination that's happening for us right now. Otherwise, it will manifest as confusion, very much so. The energy of Pisces, even though they can be extremely selfless, they can tend to also manifest as selfish. And that's just the dualistic nature of the sign. The sign governs immorality, fear, being easily led astray, carelessness, impracticality, oversensitivity, gullibility, submission, emotional breakdowns, and in some cases, psychosis. Oh, you're late. It's okay. You can rewind it and watch it from the beginning, even though we're live right now, if you don't want to be in like the updated chat, or you can watch it later. But it was mostly just me rambling. Okay, so we're going to dive into Pisces through some books before we get over to the chart. And I also pulled some cards and stuff, and of course the cards are like totally perfect. All right, so these are the books that I want to cover here. And I don't often, it's not true. I do often recommend books, but I don't often recommend books that I actually really like. But these ones are all really good. Even though I have issues with Theosophy, this Theosophical Astrology book is still pretty rad. Okay, let me come over here. Okay, so where's my chat? I don't even have the chat in front of me. It's only on the phone. Oh yeah, because I exited out and I was like doing all this stuff with the stream key. That's right. I remember now. Okay. Well, I don't see you guys here, but I see me. Okay, you guys have heard me talk about this book like a million times, but if you're in to symbolism or archetypes or the realm of the occult and the esoteric, like, you have to get this book. This is by far my most used book of all time. The Dictionary of Symbols by Sir Lot. I got it at a thrift store called the House of Yahweh. And I always joke that Yahweh gave me my most used occult book. He would be so proud. No. Okay, so I'm just going to read this section on Pisces because they do a really good job of embodying the more like esoteric energy that is Pisces. And so I just wanted to kind of read this. It says Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac. closely bound up with the symbolism of water and of the dissolution of forms, which takes place in the Akasha. Neptune, whipping up the waves with his trident and calling forth bulls and horses out of them, is a symbolic expression of the resurgence of cosmic energy from the watery depths of the primordial ocean. If Capricorn marks the beginning of the process of dissolution, Pisces denotes the final moment, which for this very reason contains within itself the beginning of a new cycle. So what they're saying, I've been into this in another video. The zodiac starts at Aries, right? It goes all the way up to the top, which is Capricorn. And then from there, it's the fall and the flood, right? And we go from Capricorn, the height of the system of civilization, of the hierarchy, of government, of structure and order. And that can only last for so long before it crumbles and dissolves back into the Akash. And from there, from the start of the beginning of this process of dissolution, we move into Aquarius, which is the water bearer. He brings the flood. He starts to bring this sort of dissolution, this sort of merging back together. That's where we merge with the collective consciousness. And then from there, we fall and merge with the collective unconscious and the wholeness of it all, which is Pisces, which represents this sort of flood. And then at the rebirth of the zodiac in Aries, we have this sort of rebirth, this renewal, right? Okay. So related to Pisces are the avatar. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different deities here tonight across cultures that are attributed to fish and Pisces. And you're going to see how some of the stories are similar and some of them are not at all. Okay. Related to Pisces are the avatar in the form of the fish Vishnu in India, and the Chaldean myth of Oannes, the man-fish. The 12th house of the zodiac, when transposed by analogy to the existential and psychic plane, denotes defeat and failure, exile or seclusion, and also mysticism, and the denial of the self and its passions. The dual aspect of this symbol is well expressed by the zodiacal sign itself, composed of two fishes, arranged parallel by one another, but facing in different directions. The left-hand fish indicates the direction of involution, or the beginning of a new cycle in the world of manifestation, while the fish that faces the right points in the direction of evolution, the way out of the cycle. And much like I've talked about the age of Aquarius being like a dualistic thing where, yeah, we're going to be like, yay, brotherhood, humanity. But it also comes with a lot of like technological advancements and transhumanism and like all these different things. The age of Pisces has the same sort of dualistic nature that, and this culmination of the age of Pisces, which we're in for like another 1,000 years. I know people keep saying that we're in the age of Aquarius. We are not, you guys. We're not. And I did a video on this. I can't remember which one, but I will find it. How we end this age of Pisces will determine what kind of age of Aquarius we have. And this age of Pisces has this dualistic energy of involution and evolution, of starting new cycles and ending cycles. So, you know, we can't project too far into the future because we can't even create the future if we do not navigate the present properly. And we, right now, all of us born right this moment, we are all living through the age of Pisces, the age of the mystic, the age of the intuitive, the age of the wizard, the age of the rise in mystical energy as opposed to religious dogma that we had before, right? We're really starting to activate our own mystical senses, and each one of us has this Pisces energy manifest in a different area of our life. And so really leaning into that house is how you can best serve during this Piscean time, right? But we all have our own little things we need to work through when it comes to that house or area of our life. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we read out of this for the Virgo moon, and so I figured we'll read out of it for the polarity as well. This book is actually really great. I highly recommend it. It's called Archetypes of the Zodiac by Kathleen Burt, and we're going to read some of the the Pisces, and then it has like a questionnaire at the end to see like how you are manifesting this Piscean energy. We might read that too, or I might post it in the Discord. I'm not sure. Okay. Hope you guys like when I read you bedtime stories. I don't like to butcher people's words, you know what I mean? So when I read something, I'm like, damn, that's good. I want you to hear it the way that I heard it instead of me trying to like butcher it. Okay, so this book breaks down each of the signs as like, and they have a sort of like quest, something they're trying to obtain, right? Virgo was the search for meaningful service. We talked about that in the Virgo video. Well, Pisces is the search for the castle of peace. Okay. The sun enters Pisces between February 19th and the 21st. It remains until about the 21st. Pisces is the last of the four mutable signs. It's mutable water. As the cosmic ocean of infinity, it is boundlessness and universal. For as William Blake wrote, who shall bind the infinite? Sensitive, caring, and adaptable, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac and the last of the 12 houses and the end of the astrological year. Spiritually, the Pisces lifetime is about dissolving of attachment without losing contact with feelings of kindness and compassion. Though our modern zodiac represents Pisces as two fish swimming in opposite directions, through the ages, many cultures chose the dolphin to symbolize Pisces. The dolphin was sacred to three different gods: Apollo, Poseidon, which is Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, and Dionysus. Because the dolphin was known for its helpfulness to man, its kindness, its mercy, and even for its healing qualities, it seems an appropriate choice for Pisces. Two dolphins swimming in opposite directions are painted on the walls of the Queen's chamber in King Minos' palace in Crete. Similar dolphins appear on the zodiac wheel far away in the ruins of Wada Hisa near Palestine. Dolphin lore must have been widespread and popular in the ancient world for dolphins to turn up in the desert so far removed from the sea that few people would ever have had an occasion to even see one. You guys know me. I'm just going to be like, oh, it was from Atlantis. But it was probably from Atlantis. Okay. In the Greek story of, I tried to say this earlier and I couldn't say it, Telemachus, which is the son of Odysseus. We hear of his rescue from drowning by a dolphin, which was then chosen to appear on the family shield. In Homer's beautiful, quote, hymn to Dionysus, we read that the pirates captured the young god, thinking him a prince's handsome son. They tried to bind his hands and intended to hold him for ransom. Dionysus broke free and turned their masts to grapevines. He then threw the pirates overboard and turned them into dolphins. Even to this day, dolphins are said to retain a memory of their former lives as men and congregate around ships, helpfully directing little fishies into sailors' nets. As three Greek gods held the dolphin sacred, few Greeks would harm the creature. In the Near East, however, dolphins were supposedly used in homeopathic remedies. Thus, they were linked to healing, and Pisces to a healing sign. In Roman times, a story was told of the boy and the dolphin, which connected the sea creature to death and the afterlife. This story invokes a powerful image in the unconscious that even today we see fountains featuring the boy and the dolphin. In the story, a small boy, very likely an orphan, went each day to feed a dolphin and enjoy a ride on its back. One day, when its human friend failed to appear, the dolphin went in search of him. It finally found the child drowned. The dolphin brought the boy to shore and remained with him to die itself. On Greek funeral vases, Hermes, which is Mercury, the guide to souls, and the dolphin appear together, the two friends to mankind who aided departed souls to find their way in the afterlife. I wrote here that it's super interesting, considering we have this Pisces moon right now, which we're talking about right now is represented by that archetype of the dolphin. And the moon is actually on the 10th. It's the 8th right now when we are speaking. And on the 9th, tomorrow, Mercury stations retrograde. And so I wrote here Mercury and this retrograde that we're having in Libra and in Virgo, the opposite sign to Pisces, is really our guide. It's helping to show us and deliver a message. And Pisces literally does govern the afterlife, the underworld, the other world, the unconscious that Hermes helps guide us through, or Mercury helps guide us through. And so this moon, and particularly the Mercury retrograde, which I know a lot of people are going to say is bad, it's going to be so bad for so many reasons, but I went into why it's not really that bad. Maybe I'm trying to convince myself of that because it's all up on my chart, but I'm starting to look at retrogrades a lot differently lately. I touched on this a little bit in that video, and I touched on this in our last moon video on how I think retrograde energy is actually our true natural energy of evolution, and that's why we grow so much during retrogrades and so much changes for us. And I talk about how the eclipses move in a retrograde fashion, and the stars and the precessional cycle moves in the ages, age of Aquarius, age of Pisces. This moves in a retrograde cycle. Our evolution moves in a retrograde cycle. And so I'm convinced that it's a psyop, of course, that they are convinced us that Mercury retrograde and all these things are so bad. All it wants us to do is go inward. And for many of us, it's hard to go inward. But if we do, we can just grow in huge quantum leaps forward. And so I'm trying to convince everybody that retrogrades are not a bad thing. They're not a bad thing. They're not a bad thing. Okay. They just manifest inwardly, and everybody is always like projecting out and trying to like be so out in the world, and it's hard for them to go inward and navigate the inner world, and that's something that retrogrades demand of us. But it's not a bad thing. Okay. The dolphins is a peculiarly Piscean type of kindness, for it lay down next to the boy and died. It did not distinguish between its own life, its own interests, and the boy's. In the cosmic ocean of feeling, there are no boundaries, no limits between one creature and another. A Pisces hearing a friend tell of his pain will soon be in tears along with the friend out of sympathy and empathy. If Pisces lies down and dies with the person rather than distancing himself mentally, quote, establishing boundaries, it becomes difficult to help the friend and find a solution or way to cope with the problem. So this could be something that could be coming up right now. Pisces governs our ability to connect emotionally, intuitively, compassionately, empathically, but it lacks boundaries. Sometimes it's opposite sign, Virgo, sometimes has too rigid boundaries. It's hard to let people in with these rigid boundaries. Pisces is lacking in said boundaries. And so at a full moon, that can very much be illuminated in how perhaps in this area of your life you maybe can be lacking boundaries and like sacrificing yourself for something outside of you, right? Okay. Okay, so she goes on to talk about clients and stuff. I tried to like mark the ones I wanted to read because I don't want to read this whole chapter. It's really long. Okay, but this is good because you might have some of these parts in your chart, and I like how she worded this because not every profession is for every person, and certain professions, particularly a lot of client work, spiritual client work, requires the ability to set clear boundaries. So I am going to read this paragraph right here. She goes on to say, so it seems important that when a Pisces friend or client says, I want to find a compassionate profession and help suffering humanity, do you think I would be a good psychologist or a good astrologer? She says to look for the air element in his or her chart, the heady mental logical element. Can the person distance himself from another's pain? Is there objectivity? Is there a clear afflicted Mercury, the planet that governs the mind, right? Meaning, is it like not conjunct Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, making it like leaning more into that vastness as opposed to being able to set clear boundaries? She says, or is Neptune in one of the angular houses, so the house of the self, the house of partnerships, the house of home or career, the strong houses, because she would say that means that Pisces energy manifests a little bit too strongly, and the ability to set boundaries could be lacking. And she says to ask yourself, do you feel drained when people tell you negative things about their suffering or their pain? How would you feel at the end of an entire day of others' problems, or a week, or several years? This merging with others' moods and feelings, if it is already tiring to Pisces people or Pisces rising, or looking to see where Pisces is in your chart, that area, it is likely to prove discouraging and exhausting when Pisces sees the sadness of a social worker, astrologer, psychologist, or other counselor encounters. But it says here that if you are a Pisces sun and you happen to have like your Mercury or strong Aquarius placements too, the partner sign, then you can be strongly aspected for this sort of profession. You'll have that ability to like set those boundaries. Remember, Aquarius is co-ruled by Saturn, the planet that governs boundaries. And then the Pisces compassion, and you'll have that sort of like balance. So this moon is illuminating this area of spirituality, and I know many of us are in this field, and so this could be things that we can ask ourselves right now. Am I setting proper boundaries when it comes to spiritual relationships with clients or whomever? Okay. She goes on, and it's really great, but I think I'm going to move on. Okay, I did want to read this one place. So this is when I floated a new deity, and I think it should be Hecate, and I will tell you why. Okay. So she's talking about Piscean absolutism. If something is intuitively felt to be wrong, Pisces becomes uncomfortable with all of those involved. They're very absolute. They feel things, and then they, regardless of what they see, they navigate very strongly on their feelings. And she says, thus, though we perceive Pisces to be quite adaptable, that mutable, shiftable energy, and without boundaries, and constantly merging its own ego with the ocean of people and circumstances around it, she says Pisces can and does draw lines based on its own intuitive grasp of the world of black and white, right and wrong. Pisces forms strong value judgment. Pisces also does a good deal of learning when forced to grapple with life's shades of gray, that golden thread in between, right? Okay. The archetypal Pisces fish swims in the ocean of life, conscious not simply of his interconnectedness with human beings, but with all life forms, plants, animals, and people. It is the wider sense of belonging to a great chain of being that distinguishes Pisces, for instance, from Aquarius, which is also a universal sign, but it's connected to the universal consciousness, like the collective consciousness, the light, and Pisces is more connected to the collective unconsciousness, the darkness, or the pre-consciousness, the all-consciousness. It has that too, but it like merges with the other side. So it's connected to plants, animals, and people. It is this wider sense of belonging to a great chain of being that distinguishes Pisces from, for instance, Aquarius, which is also a universal sign but has a mental connectedness to humanity rather than a feeling of connectedness with all life. This universality, swimming in the ocean of life, connects Pisces to Dionysus as a ruling deity. Dionysus, the shape-shifting deity, did not limit himself to appearing in human form, but appeared in the Euripides play, the Bacchae, as the powerful animals that ruled the fixed signs, the human form, which is Aquarius, the lion, Leo, the serpent, which is Scorpio, and the bull, Taurus. He was worshipped as the vine, that is, literally identified with it, and with the trampled, suffering grapes that he had harvested. No other Olympian god seemed to have his range, his universal scope, his willingness and ability to spontaneously appear anywhere when his devotees called. Astrologically, Pisces is the sign of the actor or the chameleon who can play any role in any stage setting or environment of life. As a patron of tragedy, theaters all over Greece were dedicated to Dionysus. This is one of the cards I pulled for later. It's like literally the comedy and tragedy sign. Tragedy were both enjoyable forms of entertainment in ancient Greece, and each of them had their own way of producing catharsis and emotional release. That tragedy was considered the deeper art form. Tragedy put people in touch with stronger emotions. It is the tragic mask of Dionysus that the counselor who encountered Pisces discovered in his office. In the Dionysus cult, the god spent several months in each year in the underworld, following the wine harvest, and left behind the mask as a sign of his presence in the temples. The tragic mask was venerated as the god himself. So she goes on and talks all about Dionysus and why he's good for Pisces, and I agree with all the stuff she says here. Yeah, that makes good sense. She talks about other people, other Greek figures, and why they can strongly be connected to the Pisces archetype. She mentions obviously that Neptune and Jupiter already govern Pisces. But I think that a man, a patriarchal man, whether it's Dionysus or Jupiter or Zeus or Poseidon or Neptune, I don't think any of them have any business governing the Piscean womb, the magical void space. And he said that Dionysus is the only one that has this universality where he can like shapeshift into all these other things and go into all these different realms, the underworld, the upper world, right? And I'm like, well, Hecate can do that too. She's the three-faced goddess, the maiden, mother, crone. So that whole story from start to finish, that is Pisces. She governs magic, Pisces. She governs witchcraft, Pisces. She helps us light the torches in the underworld. She always shows up when one of her devotees calls, and will even like help hold their hand and walk them through the underworld. She doesn't require any huge sacrifices or orgies like Dionysus or any of this far out stuff. She's focused more on sovereignty and power of the individual. And so I float the idea that the witch archetype of Hecate, or any witch, therefore, the asteroid Samantha is actually conjunct this moon. That's the character's name from Bewitched, one of my favorite shows. And so the witch is present, and I think that putting the feminine expression back into that sign and not having these sort of like patriarchal deities as the only ruling body, whether it be this concept of dark matter or our innate feminine connection to the womb space and the magical realm that Hecate can help represent. Those are the two archetypes that I think I want to start to integrate into my Piscean lens. All right. We were going to read a little bit more from these two books, but I'm going to post. So this book's really good too, you guys. This is a Theosophical Astrology book, and it does a really good job of like breaking down the esoteric interpretations. But this, you can find all of this online. So you can type in Pisces. I'll do it and I'll post it in the Discord. I'll post the Pisces chapter, like a PDF version, and you guys can read the whole thing because it's really good. And yeah, so we're good. We're gonna move on. In summary, Pisces is more than just the watery ocean ruled by Poseidon and harnessed by Zeus. It is our connection to the vastness of it all, and nobody has any business governing or ruling that. Okay. Let alone fucking Zeus. Okay. I'm done. I promise. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the chart. You guys like that? They just put this picture over on Canva. It's new, and I love it. I wish it wasn't so blurry, though, but it makes me happy because it's colorful. Millie said she's a Pisces rising, first house of the self. Awesome. Oh, it looks a lot brighter on the iPhone. Okay, I like it. All right. Okay, so we're just going to cover a couple of things, and I have some slides here. First, this is the chart for the moon. The moon is on September 10th. It's exact at 2:59 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can just change that to your local time to get the exact time for your location. I want to just kind of point out a couple of key things that's happening, and then we'll kind of move on. So the moon obviously falls in Pisces. It's conjunct Neptune retrograde, the ruler of Pisces, which is exactly conjunct the asteroid Diana today. So Diana is the moon goddess. So we have the moon conjunct the moon goddess, conjunct Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, this mystical, unseen, magical, spiritual realm. This moon is not only conjunct Neptune retrograde, but also Diana retrograde. So we're reconfiguring this realm. We're reconfiguring not only the realm of spirituality, the realm of ideals, the realm of illusions, the realm of fantasy, the realm of mysticism, the realm of our own unconscious, the realm of dreams, of archetypes, of the unseen, of the all that is hidden and unknown, but also all that is known, right? But it's also conjunct Diana, which is retrograde, because we are reassessing this archetypal expression of the goddess, right? Up until recently, and in most occult and esoteric depictions, you will see a sun and a moon, and they are uniting, and this is the masculine and the feminine, and the sun is very important in our universe, right, or our solar system. All of the planets rotate around it. The moon is the satellite to Earth. She helps complete the Earth goddess, right, and give her this sort of lunar body. But even that is not whole in and of itself. We have this vast cosmic goddess, this primordial goddess, this womb space that houses everything we see out in space. And so we are reassessing our view of this goddess, and we are remembering that, like, Diana and the moon was our first reflection of this. Our entry point to the psychic realm, our entry point into the subconscious, into the unconscious. It opens the door to this realm, but it is not the end all be all. There is so much more. And this Piscean full moon illuminating this realm of more is helping to show us just how much more there is, and how these archetypes have no business governing it. It's honestly hilarious to me to think that we can say as astrologers with straight faces, and I've said it a million times, Neptune and Jupiter govern Pisces, the cosmic womb, the Akashic realm. These little planets that revolve around our little sun governs the entire fucking universe. It just doesn't even make sense. If anything, the universe governs Pisces. The universe is the ruler of Pisces. And right now, this whole is being illuminated, and we're reassessing this area. Okay, so I want to point out a couple of things that's happening, right? We have this opposition to the sun in Virgo, so we're having this sort of polarity strongly activated, and it's really showing up in certain areas of our life, and we're having to compromise and find a middle ground amongst shedding and growing and planting and culminating and harvesting, right? And this Pisces moon, we're going to be plugged very strongly into that boundaryless realm. And so whatever house Virgo falls in for you will be the house in that area of your life that can help offer grounding to you at this time, so that you do not lose yourself, but you can obtain mystic truths in the process, right? Okay, so this moon is also sitting in a trine to Black Moon Lilith. So it's actually in a grand trine with Black Moon Lilith and the South Node in Scorpio. So this is actually a really great transit for several reasons. One, Lilith represents all that is repressed and hidden in the subconscious, particularly the feminine parts of our psyche that have been severed and rejected and shunned to the nether reaches of the consciousness of man and everything, right? Lilith represents that which we need to reclaim and integrate. And it very much works with this 12th house Piscean unconscious energy. And the fact that she's working harmoniously, and these are all falling in the water element, the element that represents mysticism, intuition, psychic senses. We have this very strong water trine, and we're plugged in not only into the whole vastness of the spiritual realm that is Pisces, not only into our own subconscious realm, which is Cancer, our own shadowy projections that we're trying to navigate through, like, find our own shit and work through it and not get lost within the collective shit, right? Lilith represents kind of like our own shit. that we need to go into this realm and navigate. And she's working harmoniously with this illumination. So what will be illuminated for us at this time, we can really zero in on some of our Lilith manifestations, some of our more shadowy, hidden parts of our psyche that need attention. And then this trine to the South Node really helps to work harmoniously with the story that we've been starting in this area of our life over the past year. We're halfway through an eclipse story in these signs, Taurus and Scorpio. Scorpio governs the projections. It governs the shadow. It governs the occult. It governs the other side of the veil. It governs the mysteries. And it also governs like all of our projections and all of our bullshits and all of our habits that stand in the way from us accessing that. The South Node is like a cosmic portal to the past. It's a cosmic portal to like all past karmic debris that needs to be dealt with in this area when it comes to our personal like incarnation, but also our collective story. So a lot of like unconscious karmic debris is bubbling up from our whole collective unconscious in order to be like actually dealt with at this time. Like things are being illuminated in all of our watery houses, and it's all part of this full moon. And so if we can just kind of like welcome this illumination of our psyche and kind of like take notes and pay attention, we can really dig in deep to a lot of different areas of our life right now. All of our water signs, all of the signs that govern our intuition and our mysticism, right? Okay, so the other like main transit is or aspect is the fact that this moon is sitting in a square to Mars and a sextile to the North Node and Uranus. So I'm going to go to the next slide to kind of explain what we actually have here, because I just made it look a little bit better. Do I want to touch on that? No, those are just asteroids. Okay, yeah. Okay. So what we actually have here is a T-square between the Sun, the Moon, and Mars. Mars is the planet of action, of motivation, of drive. It is in Gemini right now, and it will be here for a really long time, like almost 8 months, because of a retrograde. So it is on its own little quest in this area, and it's a big one. It's a big transit for us. So this moon is working with this Mars energy. Yes, it's a square. Yes, these are harsh aspects. They're conflicting. They require us to be triggered in some way and force us to take action, but that action brings resolve. That action is needed. And you will see as we expand out here how the energy is very harmonious and free-flowing, but lacking the ability to take action. Because what we have is actually two mystic rectangles, or what's known as a grand sextile or a Star of David. I'm going to break those down for you right now. But before I do, I want to just kind of explain what these are. They are aspect patterns of planets making harmonious aspects with each other, whether it be sextiles or trines, and they make a sort of like closed container that gets very comfortable and harmonious and free-flowing, but lacks the ability to take action. They can tend to be very complacent and comfortable in their free-flowing circuit. And so this Mars square comes with that ability for us to actually take action and activate these mystic rectangles and this grand sextile. So the first mystic rectangle we have is actually made between our two polarities. So what a mystic rectangle is two different oppositions. So what we have here is the opposition between the moon and the sun, and the opposition between our nodes, right? And they are connected by trines, because the moon is trining the south node. The south node is sextiling the sun. the sun is trining the north node, and the north node is sextiling the moon, right? So they're all working harmoniously together. Our luminaries, meaning this entire moon, the full moon, is working harmoniously with our eclipse story, with our fated path forward, where we've been, where we're going, what we're working through, what we're working to birth and create. And we're preparing for eclipse season. Eclipse season will be next month. So this moon here is really an illumination, not just for what's happening in Pisces, your area of Pisces, not just an illumination of the entire fucking zodiac because it's the last moon of the zodiac. It's not just an illumination into the house that Pisces governs, but it's an illumination for this moon and also this eclipse story, this 18-month eclipse story that we're about to re-enter here next month, right around Halloween. In the midst of retrogrades and all kinds of other things. So again, it's a full moon. You don't have to do much other than open your eyes, pay attention, and see. Hopefully what I'm saying here is helping you to see things in your chart, and then you're starting to make connections like, oh, maybe that's why that played out. Oh, maybe that's what that's trying to show me, right? So mystic rectangle is a harmonious connection between these points. We actually have another mystic rectangle if we throw in an asteroid. So that's what we have here. Again, it's between the sun, the opposition between the sun and the moon. Lilith, which is trining the moon, we talked about earlier. And what we have over here is actually the asteroid Minerva. I didn't write it. You guys, I have so much going on right now. I'm surprised I even got this video out. These 2 videos, these 2 days. Plus, we're doing this new like homeschooling thing with the kids. It's just, and the cats. There's so much. There's just so much. I'm surprised I'm here. But like, okay. So, what this mystic rectangle is connecting are luminaries. Black Moon Lilith, the repressed feminine, and then Minerva. Minerva is Athena. She is the goddess of wisdom and war. But I always say her wisdom is rooted in masculine knowledge because she is a female deity rooted in the patriarchal mindset because she was birthed from Zeus's head. She is the patron responsible for turning Medusa into a Gorgon when she was raped in her temple. She is the feminine deity responsible for severing this feminine consciousness and rejecting it to the nether reaches of the unconscious realm. And so what we have right here is our luminaries in opposition as this illumination illuminating the unconscious realm. We have that working harmoniously with the feminine part of our psyche that severed part of herself and left her to rot ultimately, rejected her, shunned her, and then we have the part which is shunned, all working harmoniously. So that Athena, I wrote here, she can remember who she is, and or Minerva, Athena, whatever, it's the same person, Roman and Greek, can remember who she is and reclaim this part of her psyche. And the only place we can find it, the only place we can find this part of our psyche is in Pisces, is in the realm of the unconscious, the realm of the archetypes. So this moon is actually beautiful. We see it have these 2 mystic rectangles which are triggered by this T-square to Mars, the planet of action, the planet of drive, the planet of motivation. So this, the way these aspect patterns are drawn are not the way it would normally look in the sky. It would look like this. I just wanted to show how it looks when we have the 2 mystic rectangles. So they really are 2 independent stories that are mirrored on top of each other, but both are working with our luminaries. So both are working with this full moon, right? We have Minerva reclaiming her lost parts of her psyche that she herself severed because she was rooted in the patriarchy, and so she denied part of her own feminine existence. And then we have the luminaries working with our nodal story and this track forward that we are taking, and also this karmic cleanup that we are doing. And then we have Mars, the planet of action, coming to trigger this and activate it and help us to embody it, because these blue lines are very complacent. They're way too comfortable with each other. They don't have that sort of triggering catalyst that can help actually utilize all of this harmony. So we need this sort of trigger to come, and it comes beautifully. And so this is just another way of depicting those same blue lines. These are the rectangles. You can see them here. But what it really is a grand earth trine between the North Node, Uranus, our story, our liberating new story. Uranus is liberation, Taurus is the new story. Trining Minerva and the sun. Minerva's working with that solar patriarchal consciousness like she does so well. But if we work in the mystic rectangle, you can see what she's missing. She's missing Lilith. She needs to integrate her to become whole. She can stand with the light and she can stand with the darkness together. And then we have a grand water trine between the Pisces moon, the Scorpio south node, and of course Lilith. This is a very mystical, magical, intuitive moon. It's actually beautifully aspected. But what we have here is a shit ton of retrograde planets, and Mercury having stationed literally right around the time of the moon. It's still stationed. It's standing fucking still, which tells me we are supposed to not be in our heads. Our planet that governs our heads and our thinking is standing still and literally not moving. But when it is, its energy is very strong, and so you'll want to be in your head, but you'll be in a head full of confusion and just wires crossed. We are being begged by the universe to go inward, to activate this mystic star within. And we have Mars here to help us take the action to activate it. It's actually really beautiful. That's the Mars square. It's actually really beautiful. But yeah, it will require us to get out of our head. The sun in Virgo is heady. It's analytical. It's overthinking. It's overanalyzing. Mercury in Libra, an air sign, same way. Retrograde. It's heady. This energy needs to be grounded, and it needs to go inward. Maybe even unplugging from social media for a couple of days, or going out into nature, unplugging in whatever way you can is ideal. One of those books in there, I don't remember which one I was going to read. I always have these grandiose plans. What's it? Bernadette's? And it was just talking about how Pisces, like, we require solitude in order to connect to the magic that is in that area of our life. And so this moon, more than ever, with all these retrogrades and this Piscean energy that literally governs solitude, find some way to quiet your mind and go inward, because you have this like magical essence here, whether it's these mystic rectangles or the Star of David, however you want to look at this, it's the same thing. It's depicting the same thing. Ready to be activated. Looking to see what house Gemini falls in for you. That's where Mars is. That's where the trigger is coming from. So Mars for me is my 10th house. So this action was taken in my area of career. So it's probably me talking to you right now, mapping out this whole thing, seeing this for myself, so that now I can go turn my mind off, go inward, and do all the things that I'm telling you guys to. The trigger for me came from my 10th house of career. Looking to see where Gemini is will help you to see where this trigger, this action, this motivation, this drive is coming from, that is here to help activate this mystical essence within, right? Okay, I just want to make sure I covered all this stuff because sometimes I forget. And then we're going to go into the cards. These are from the cards. Triggering Martian activation, yes. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and dive into these cards, and then we'll call it a night. If anybody has any questions, you guys can write anything in the chat about your chart or whatever. Make sure you guys watch the September video to get a deeper understanding about the Mercury retrograde, because I didn't cover it too much here. But, you know, when Mercury is retrograde, we go inward, we reassess, we reconfigure, we don't try to do new things. We try to redo things that need redoing to get them right, right? And Mars, that's over in Gemini, is just entered the constellation of Orion, which is very similar to Gemini. It represents the split. It represents the divide. It represents the us versus them, light versus dark, right versus left. And also the path back to right and left and black and white, right? And the merging of the two. So the actions that Mars is taking in our Gemini house have a lot to do with duality and have a lot to do with finding a balance between extremes. The actions that we're supposed to be taking it's found somewhere in the middle, right? I'm just looking at the calendar to see if there's anything else I wanted to say before I read these cards. Okay, no, I think we're good. Okay, so I pulled an archetype card, and then I pulled a card from the Wild Harmonic Oracle. And the way that deck is configured, it has all of the different elements. So it has like the earth, air, fire, water, and then it has the celestial realm, the dimensional realm, and the shadow realm. And each card is a mixture of the two. So it says that when you pull a shadow card, which was the first card that came out after the archetype card, it's some sort of like blockage that you're working through, and then to pull another card for how to work through that blockage. So what we have here is the archetype that this moon is really embodying is that of the storm. We are going to be presented with some sort of shadow dimension projection. And in order to work through that, we'll have to lean into this water of celestial, which perfectly represents Pisces. And this concept of dreaming in layers and waking up from said dream in layers. I pull this card a lot for my clients, and I love the symbolism here because we have the human in the middle, balanced between the sun and the moon, between extremes, also balanced between the grounded earth and the vastness of space. You also have all of the little stars and all of these stellar consciousness being integrated in a vast cosmic consciousness. I freaking love the symbolism of this card. But okay, let's go ahead and read this from the book. So the archetype that this moon is going to be bringing up for us is this concept of the storm, right? So it says the storm, the chaos, the whirlwind, the disorder. Possessing an energy much like the Tarot's Tower card, the ending that is Pisces, right? The storm undoes all that is. Everything that was solid, known, and relied upon is stripped away by the winds of fate. The ground becomes the sky becomes the center, and then the center disappears. The storm is a great equalizer. No matter how far we've come on the path, no matter our age, our wealth, our wisdom, we cannot hide from its savage winds. Their disturbing howls stir anxiety and make it impossible to see and think straight. You must wait it out. You must go within. If you try to fight the storm, you will lose. A better option is to seek temporary shelter and a reliable friend. When all else fails, go within. There, for a moment, you settle into the eye of the storm. The storm's intention is to rebalance your equilibrium. It is a result of precarious conditions, not the cause of them. The storm lays bare the truth that there are forces larger than you. This understanding is a relief, but also a predicament of power that requires your surrender. When this archetype is evolved, it is meaningful obliteration and annihilation. When it's in its lower archetype, it is meaningless disorder and dysfunction. It says to go deeper, you can watch the tornado scene in The Wizard of Oz, or Reich's The Man Watching. You could probably also listen to the Fleetwood Mac song Storms. I actually have those lyrics tattooed on my back. It says, I have always been a storm on my back. I got it done when I was like 17 years old. It's a really horrible tattoo. And that song is super sad and depressing, and I can no longer listen to it. But you guys can, and I can live vicariously through you. All right. So I got that tattoo for one reason, and now I look at it as something completely different. I look at the storm as something completely different, as opposed to this destructive, chaotic force that I very much was in my 20s, to this sort of like cleansing rebirth, the sort of rainbow that comes after the storm, the flood that cleanses so the new world can be reborn, right? Still want to get it covered up because it looks freaking awful, but I don't hate it as much as I used to. Okay, so I pulled another card, this card, to see how we can best navigate the storm. And to navigate the storm, we have to integrate this, and this is how we do it. So first, let's talk about this shadow of dimension. I love that it has this comedy and tragedy masks. That book was way more into like the comedy and tragedy and the connection to theater and fantasy that both Dionysus and Pisces holds. Pisces literally governs film and music and acting and everything that is illusionary, right? So that when I pulled these cards, I was like, oh my God, it's so perfect. Okay. Shadow of dimensional. As the shadow consumes the dimensional expanse, our ability to discern wisdom becomes askewed. Meditation. The contrast between reality and what we wish it to be. So perfect for Pisces. Oh my God, I'm going to read that again. The contrast between reality and what we wish it to be, and the doubt that can arise from such. A card of perhaps one of the most difficult choices one ever has to make. When set upon things going awry, does one fall into self-defeating attitude or rise up and face things with a joyful mood of a waking dreamer? Oh my God, that's so Pisces. Who knows things aren't over yet. We know that the zodiac isn't really ending. We know that the world isn't really ending, that it's going to be rebirthed again when we have our Aries full moon next month. It's not the last new moon. It's the last full moon. It's the last culmination. So yeah, it's the end of the zodiac. Okay. When things are going wrong for me, I feel this urge to believe that this is an indication of how things will go for me from now on. Something in me wants to confirm my perpetual doom and deeply wallow in the misery of that vision. Even though all is falling down around me, I can always choose to turn to it with the perspective of, and yet. Inquiry. What perspectives am I holding that may feel powerful but are actually holding me back? I like that. Okay, so we'll read. Oh, I took it out. I have my bookmarks in here. All right, hold on. So how can we navigate this, these perspectives that are powerful but holding us back? How can we go within to activate this waking dreamer as opposed to believing the confusion that's all around us, right? Well, that's by tapping into the water of celestial and this concept of dreaming in layers, which I had marked, but I lost it. Okay. Water of celestial, which couldn't get any more Piscean if it tried. As the flowing feeling of life ascends into the celestial realms, it reveals the many layers of interpretation, the endless celestial realms within. Meditation, altered states of awareness, guidance, and understanding. This card is a recognition that we exist on many layers of experience, and that by tuning into them, seeking to find a means of helping the layers relate, we come to find a deeper wholeness and healing. Closing my eyes opens my vision to far-reaching, imaginable realms of endless possibility. Learning to explore and relate to these many other states of being informs my life in ways that may, at first, seem easy to dismiss, yet contain irrefutable keys to the unlocking of my potential. Inquiry. What are my dreams, fantasies, and visions helping me to see about my life right now? Both of those little inquiries at the end are the perfect questions to ask for Pisces. When I pulled these cards, I was just blown away. I was like, yeah, those are accurate. How come I only pull accurate cards when I'm doing it for you guys? I could never pull cards that make sense for myself. Because I'm supposed to go within to find the answers. That's why. All right, guys. Yeah, that's it. Sometimes I have an extra slide, but I guess I didn't. All right, guys. Have a great night. Thank you for being here with me so late. We meet again on the 14th to dive into the super fabulous book, The Sign of the Serpent, The Key to Creative Physics. Like, super fabulous book. I really enjoyed reading this book, and I'm going to read it again with you guys. So we're going to start that on the 14th. And then we meet again on the 21st for the Libra new moon video. That new moon is actually conjunct the super galactic center. It is gonna, and my sun. It is gonna be a big one. I'm excited for that one. I'm very excited for that. So have a great night. Try to stay cool. I don't know where you live, but I am like so sweaty right now. I'm gonna have to jump back in the shower. It's so hot. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.